Hello everyone and welcome back here at a brand new video of Tuning Dutchy. Now, at least I hope you guys enjoyed the drive POV which I posted yesterday. If not, go check it out on the channel. It's a shorter one than normally, just to keep the watch time a little bit normal and that people are not watching for hours or something like that. So, the thing what I'm going to start with is you guys probably remember on my car that I have RPM problems whenever the car is cold or hot. It doesn't actually matter too much. Now, when the car is cold is the biggest issue of all. Now, when I'm in first gear and I try to go to second gear, the problem what then is that it doesn't matter if I have 2k RPMs, 2.5k RPMs, 3k RPMs, doesn't matter at all. It stays on 3k RPMs whenever the clutch is pulled in. I don't know what this problem is, but I might have some solutions. Yeah, what I'm thinking here is number one, vacuum hoses, but I already checked them. However, I don't think they are cracked or leaky or whatever. And I'm not gonna spray with water because I don't want my engine gets filled up with water if there is a vacuum leak, because water is not gonna be burned. So I don't want water wherever in my engine. No, thank you. So I got some plans. The first thing that I'm trying to do is taking the intake manifold off later or sooner to check out if it's actually bent. Now, if you're asking why it should be bent, now the Chevrolet Métis, Daewoo Métis, and some other Daewoo and Chevrolet marks or brands from this car size, they actually share somehow the same sort of material intake manifold, which is hardened plastic. Now they can crack once over time, and that causes vacuum leaks. Now my car is only 100,000 kilometers on the clock, which is probably 60k miles. Um, but the thing is, that's number one what I'm gonna take off, and I will probably check here on my table, or maybe even completely down in this apartment where I got my room, to check out if it is indeed leaky or if it's bent. Now, I do know that my intake manifold has not only the intake, but it has also the what do you call it again? There's something that where the coolant passes through on the intake side, and that is also what's covering it. It's completely horrible, but yeah, that's actually that. So I have to be careful. Probably I have to flush the coolant to get the intake manifold out. Stupid design, but that's what they made. So that's number one. If I think that the intake manifold is leaking, I definitely will try a second one. Um, then I'm gonna check all hoses. However, the most hoses are pretty new, especially for the purge valve hose. One comes from the fuel tank and goes to the purge valve, and on the other side of the purge valve, it goes to the intake manifold itself. So there's things that I'm really thinking here. Now that hose, I'm 100% sure is brand new. It's not breaking, it's very bendable, everything. So that one is in good shape. It doesn't even have dust signs on it. So that's very good. Now the brake, the master brake cylinder hose, that very thick one, that one is pretty stiff and old. So I don't know if that one is leaky or if the check valve, if that one is gonna be bad, yes or no. I don't know, but maybe that's a good thing to check as well. But there aren't so much vacuum hoses on my car, so I don't think I have a vacuum hose problem. But I think somewhere should be a crack. That's what I think. I'm not quite sure, and no, I know that I can use carburetor cleaner or something like that, or start pilot or anything like that. Whenever the RPM is gonna be raised, then I know that there's a vacuum leak. Yes, I know, but I'm not gonna work with that because I don't want that my engine is gonna be acting weird that it already has. So once I get the intake manifold off, and once I have seen that there's a crack, I probably just take a second-hand intake manifold because they don't crack that fast. But if there is too much heat, yes, that can happen. The other thing is, and this sounds a little bit overkill, but as you guys know, I'm a performance guy more than visual. But visual optics is very, very, very important for me as well. But what I'm gonna do here is I will replace all sensors. All sensors. So coolant temperature sensor, intake air temperature sensor, recently replaced because that's not the manufacturer sensor. This is aftermarket. Oh yeah, and by the way, just look at this. I don't think this should happen. The black ones, I can turn the black one. Should not happen. Anyways, I will replace all kinds of sensors, all O2 sensors, the inlet inlet air temperature sensor. I will replace the map sensor, all sensors that I can find on the engine. Why I'm gonna do these kinds of crazy stuff is what I'm gonna explain you is next. I do know that the RPM fluctuations also can caused by the transmission. Once I replace the intake manifold, once I replace all sensors, and once I also have confirmed that there's no more vacuum leaks, so by replacing all hoses, there's only one option left, and that's the transmission. Now the transmission is not too expensive. I mean, I could easily take a transmission forward from a Daewoo Matisse. I mean, that doesn't matter because they share sort of the same transmission. However, only the shift knob of the Daewoo Matisse is a little different, but I mean, shift knob, what is that? I mean, you can change a shift knob from any kind of brand you want. So, that's actually what I'm going to plan. Now, the first thing that is most reasonable, or I'm thinking, is also the EGR valve. Now, I don't think that my EGR valve is leaky, but I do know that it's not passing the emission tests anymore if I see my car scanner from the OBD2, which goes over Bluetooth. Now, it might be a good idea to check that one because there's no more gasket in it, and the biggest problem is I can't get a gasket anymore for that because you cannot buy it. So, or I take a new one, or I'm gonna make myself a gasket. Now, I do know that this problem already was when I bought the car, so that means there was already a gasket on there, but probably not in a good shape. I do know that that has been broken off for a little bit, but it doesn't mean that there should be a vacuum leak. Now, also maybe in the future I will probably do a AGR delete and doing some other stuff with chip tuning and all that. So I think if I'm gonna do that and blank off all those things, I should be good to go, at least with the EGR already. But it can be that my emissions tests are gonna say, we're not gonna accept it. So that's actually number one. So strategy number one is taking the intake air manifold off if it's not connected to the coolant passage, because that's the case. If I mean you can get a blueprint and you can put that on the passage itself, so it's blocked, and you have the intake manifold as a separate part, which is way better. It also is actually noted in the repair manual that you better can saw that in two pieces, one for the manifold warping it was, sorry. So one for the manifold warping and the other side for the intake manifold. So whenever your intake manifold is broken, cracked, heated up, or whatever you want, just enough to replace it, you don't have to take that off from the coolant passage. So you just take the intake manifold off and that's it. Now, the injectors are on the other side spoken. I have seen a difference because if your car is an operating temperature, it should be as close to zero. Now, that's not in my case. It's not hilarious, it's not too horrible. I mean, I have checked it and it's on 156. So yes, my injectors are not the cleanest anymore, but I think also it's overkill to replace those. Once I will have more money, of course, then I can do it, but currently I think it's unnecessary. It's just throwing away money. That's actually what I think, guys. So if you think from, hey, that might be a good start, just let me know. Because if all hoses are replaced, intake manifold is replaced, all sensors are replaced, and it's still gonna do the same thing, then I'm pretty sure what the problem is. And that's then the problem that I don't like, which is the transmission. Now, don't ask me why, but normally if you have an automatic transmission, you have a hose that goes for sort of solenoid, and it goes to the intake manifold as well. Now, I do have the problems from an automatic transmission, but I don't have an automatic transmission. I have manual, a 5-speed manual with very short gears. So yeah, it's a little such, and it's a little throwing money here and there, but I think I have to go somewhere and I have to do something. So yeah. Anyways, guys, this was actually the video. So this is actually the plan to see and solve the problem, RPM problem. Now, my feelings telling me that it might be the transmission. However, I don't like it. But I think I don't have much choice here to such. So I think I might just start and go working on it. Now, I mean, as I already said in the beginning, this is also an intake air temperature sensor with only two things in there, ground and signal. This one was in it, and you can already see this black thing. And hey, this should not happen. Okay, so that's aftermarket as well. It's not even OEM, and currently there's an OEM in there, so that one is trash can enough. It's good for the trash can and can be good thrown away. Now that's number one. I have seen some difference between this one and the other intake air temperature sensor, and I mean I'm feeling pretty good with it. It's actually measuring better than this one. So I think I'm just gonna replace more sensors over time, and hopefully I will face a sensor sometime that is causing this problem. Now the intake manifold, yes, I could take it off because it's the biggest air part, which can cause the biggest vacuum problem. I can take it off immediately, sure, but how often is it gonna happen that a hardened plastic thing is gonna break? Because it actually looks very decent. So I really don't have. Well, I don't really think that I should take it off, but I'm still gonna do it because I mean it's a car and you never know. So that's actually that, guys. Now make sure you like the video if you liked it. Now if you want to comment on what I'm saying here, am I correct or am I incorrect? Just write that down below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel for future content. And yeah, I mean I see you guys the next time. Okay, and it's time to order some sensors and let's replace all of those because some of them, yeah, they might be replaced. Anyways, guys, this was Tuning Dutchy, and I'm gonna sign off and I'll catch up with you guys the next time. Thanks for watching.